Ho, ho, ho! Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Damon Martin.
And I'm looking across at the biggest Rohan Campbell fan I've ever known, Damon Martin. But I'm Patrick Guerra. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes, tonight we get to talk about one of my all-time favorite actors, Ryan Campbell. Patrick, every year we try to do a holiday horror film in this show. We've done Gremlins in the past. We actually did the original Silent Night, Deadly Night a couple years ago. We did Black Christmas, which is an all-time classic.
Good
And
one.
we didn't even have to work too hard for the one for this year because it was perfectly timed out that we had an open week. And this is the week that the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake hits theaters, which, you know, you and I are big champions of the theater going experience. It was a perfect time to review the new remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, released in December of 2025, starring the likes of Mark Atchison as Charlie, David Tomlinson as Max, David Lawrence Brown as Mr. Sims, Ruby Modine as Pamela Sims, and Damon's favorite, Rohan Campbell as Billy Chapman, written and directed by Mike P. Nelson from stories by Paul Kamey and Michael Hickey's original motion picture screenplay, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Back again, Damon. And props to Cineverse, by the way. If you don't listen to our intros, they actually did a proper like trailer guy voiced intro or like a trailer. I miss the trailer voice. I really do.
I
I
do.
think it needs a return. And go seek out the Silent Night, Deadly Night trailer. It's got the great voice on there. It just adds something extra to it. And when we're in that wistful holiday season, Damon, where we're thinking about times past, we want something like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and we got it.
And you keep referencing Rohan Campbell, and for people who are maybe like, why does he keep mentioning Rohan Campbell? It's because Rohan Campbell starred in Halloween Ends, which is a movie that I absolutely despise with every fiber of my being. I think it's one of the worst horror films ever made, and it makes me viscerally angry to talk about it. Of course, Rohan Campbell played Corey, which was a huge part of that problem in that movie. Not his fault, by the way. All he did was
No.
play a part. Certainly not his fault. It's the writing. David Gordon Green, you and me are still on site if I ever see you. Um, but yes, just for people who may not be as familiar with the lore of our show and be like, Damon really hates this guy. No, I don't really hate Rohan Campbell. It's just an inside joke because I despise Halloween Ends.
And he didn't really help us any when he was in The Monkey. But again, not his fault. He just happened to take a role where he was an obnoxious guy, and I was like, wow, I'm 0 for 2 with Rohan Campbell right now, currently. But Damon, Silent Night, Deadly Night, a remake first and foremost, kind of yeah, it's a remake, especially in the beginning of the movie. I don't want to give anything away, believe it or not, even if you are very, very knowledgeable of the original movie, I don't think you're going to see where this movie's coming from. So most of the plot of this movie is going to have to stay in spoilers. But essentially, the setup is the same. A boy suffers a terrible tragedy on Christmas when he's young, and it affects him terribly when he's older. That is the plot of the original movie, and it's the plot of this movie as well. But boy, do these things divert so dramatically. And I'm going to tell you right now, Damon, without saying anything about what happens, I think it's a turn in the right direction. And we love slashers. We grew up on slashers, so they are close to our hearts. This is a slasher. It's a dyed in the wool slasher, but I'm gonna say it's not a slasher like every other slasher. It's something different, something special for the holidays.
It really is. And if you remember, if you go back a couple of years ago when we did our Silent Night, Deadly Night episode for Christmas, I think it was 2 years ago, we both popped on the podcast. I had seen it a couple of times as a kid, and I had seen it more as an adult. I can't remember. I think it was maybe your first time seeing it when we reviewed
It
it.
might have been, yeah.
And I remember getting on the podcast, you being like, "Wow, this movie's fucking dark. Like it's
Oh yeah.
really like it's really a dark movie. Like when you watch it, you're like Jesus Christ, like this is a really dark movie." And it is, by the way. It's a really messed up movie. The plot and the actual execution of that movie is pretty messed up. So I totally agree. So sitting down for Silent Night, Deadly Night, I'm going to be honest. Like I went in with no expectations. I wasn't going in thinking I'm going to love it. I wasn't going in thinking I'm going to hate it. I did know it was a lower budget movie. You know, being produced by the same team behind Terrifier. I knew it had my boy Rohan Campbell in it, and I knew who Mike P. Nelson was because we did a review of Wrong Turn on this podcast a few years ago as well. The reboot, not really a remake, more of a reboot that came out. You know, on I think it was on Paramount. And we reviewed that on the show as well. So I was familiar with a lot of the players in this thing. So I went in with no expectations, and I was just like, I just hope it's fun, I hope it's enjoyable because I do really like the original Silent Night. It's a messed up movie, but I really do enjoy that movie. The opening of this movie, which I mentioned in the intro and I'll mention again here, and this really tells you nothing about it. It really does start out with the same plot of a little boy and his parents going to visit his grandfather in a nursing home, and then on their way home they are stopped by a dude in a Santa Claus suit, and his parents are brutally murdered. And that affects him for the rest of his life. Now, how it affects him in this movie versus how it affected him in the original, we'll get into that in spoilers. But that is the setup. That is the premise. And by the way, when that happened in this movie, I was just like, oh, this is a straight up remake. Okay, well, all right, where are we going to go now? Like, what's going to happen? Is it set in modern times? Like, what are we getting into here? I'm here to tell you, Patrick, it's not a straight up remake. It is, I mean, yes, it is a remake because it's called Silent Night, Deadly Night, and the premise is similar in terms of like the setup. But the actual execution and where this plot goes was actually pretty surprising. And even I was like, it took me a little bit to totally figure out where they were going. Like it wasn't totally upfront and clear in the first like 30 minutes. You had to kind of wait a little bit to really kind of totally know where they were going. But once you figure it out, I was like, okay, you got me. Like this is interesting. This is a different twist. And I'm not telling you I'm not telling you it's the most intricate plot in the history of plots. It's not one of those books you're going to reread over and over again because just like so many layers and all that kind of stuff. It's not that. It is a slasher film. You don't need to really put on your thinking cap for a slasher film, but I really enjoyed the changes they made in terms of where they went with the story, where they went with the character development, where they went with the characters' motivations. And when we get into spoilers, and I know people are like, "Well, we're gonna have to wait for real details in the spoilers because the twist, for lack of a better word, of this movie is such something I don't want to reveal to our audience until we know for sure that we're going to spoil it for them." But I was pleasantly surprised. Like I went in having no idea if I was even going to care about this movie, and I walked out going, "You know what? I had a pretty fun night at the movies."
Yeah, and it's weird. This gets to that time of year where there's either something really big that's about to happen, which for us will be Stranger Things finale, or there's almost nothing going on, and that was kind of I felt like last year there was nothing going on except for Nosferatu that came out right at Christmas. Um, and so you end up with kind of the what's left over from the year in terms of horror. I think horror hits its peak right at and around Halloween, and then it starts to slow down. The bigger releases for the year slow down, and then only the big stuff that is looking for awards show up in December. So we ended up like talking about Red Rooms last year, which was a smaller movie. This is a smaller movie. It's a low budget movie, but what I'm happy to report is if you love slashers, you're going to get one. There's a big kill count. My I knew better than to make too much on my notes when I make notes during while I'm watching these movies. I knew that my main note was going to need to be the best kill slash gore because I was like, I think this movie is going to be body count heavy. I would have been pretty disappointed if it hadn't been, but good news is lots of people get fucked up in this movie. A whole lot of people, a whole lot of slashing going on. That's what you want. That's what you're looking for when you're a slasher fanatic. Is this the most like refined movie? No. And in the beginning, there were some rough moments where I was like, ooh, I don't know. What am I actually getting into? I even thought to myself, is this going to be too trauma for Damon? Because Damon does not like trauma movies. And I was like, it might err on the side of too cheap. But then it goes hard, like and the opening scene that everybody kind of knows, where Santa attacks Billy's parents when he's a little kid, goes hard, and it's very reminiscent. And something I picked up on very quickly, very reminiscent of 1980s films, very reminiscent of Silent Night, Deadly Night, very reminiscent of Maniac. movies classic slashers from that era. So I want to tell people right now before if maybe they're going to pause and they're going to go watch this and then come back. You're getting into a slasher. Congratulations. This is your Christmas gift. You wanted a slasher all year long, a real tried and true one, and we got one for you. Was Hell of a Summer this year? I can't remember. It wasn't. It was last year,
Was
right?
it
Hell
was
of a
this
Summer
year?
was this year?
It
This
was
is the
this year.
longest year in the history of years. Like, I think Hell of a Summer, I was so excited for Finn Wolfhard, and I was like, oh, this is like a camp slasher. It was a little light on the slashing. If you were going to really critique that movie, it was light on slashing. And I wanted to be able to tell people, oh, like it's like any other camp slasher. It was a little light on that. This is not. This delivers. Mike P. Nelson and company deliver on the slashes for Christmas, Damon.
And let me tell you, the other thing I'll say about this movie, people are going to say it sounds like you didn't like it or you're insulting it. I'm really not. This movie's ridiculous in the best way possible. Like there's
Yeah.
there's one moment in this movie, and I know you know what I'm talking about without getting into it, where let's just say our Santa, Billy Campbell, goes to a party. I'm not going to say what kind of party it is, where the party is
Hmm.
at, what happens at this party. But what unfolds is so ridiculous and so over the top, but I loved it. It was just like sometimes you gotta embrace the goofiness. You know what I mean? Like just
Yes.
embrace it. And like I think what separated you mentioned Trauma and really you're mentioning the Toxic Avenger, the remake, which I absolutely hated. I did not like that movie at all. And a big part of why I didn't like that movie was the plot was so incredibly dumb. Like it was just a really bad plot. It didn't make a lot of sense and it just wasn't a good plot. And I know you're gonna say you don't really go to see that movie for the plot, but I like at least a decent story. That to me is what separated Silent Night, Deadly Night. It is ridiculous and it is goofy at times and it is over the top and it is, a low budget indie horror movie. But it also actually gave me a comprehensively not comprehensive, a comparable story. Like there was actually like a decent story in this one, and does it get a little ridiculous? Does it get a little crazy? Does it get a little bit like, oh my god, this can't be real? Yes, of course it does. But there's so many slashers like that. Like I said, we grew up in the '80s. We talk about Friday the 13th. We talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. We talk about the Halloween movies. But you talk about a lot of the offshoot horror films like Terror Train or Prom Night or any of the other great slashers of the '80s. There's always a little bit of ridiculousness in there for none of them are like this super straightforward serious movie. And so like I feel like they really did capture that '80s reminiscent feel in Silent Night Deadly Night with the remake, and the ridiculous parts of the movie blend so well with the horror and with the comedy and with the actual plot line, the way it unravels. I had fun. Like I just had fun. And we talked earlier this year, Patrick, and I assume you're probably going to bring this up at some point. You mentioned Hell of a Summer, a movie that you and I liked far better than the mass audience seemed to like that movie.
Yeah.
But we talked about Are Slashers Dead? Because it seems like the last few slashers we've seen have not done particularly well. They've not been very well received. And generally speaking, the biggest complaint we got, especially when you talk about like the I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot and some other ones, is that the stories just don't connect. They're not well written. They're not really well executed plots. It feels like color by numbers, mass killer, a few people get killed, and then the big reveal of who it is. And it feels like no one's trying to reinvent the wheel. No one's trying that hard to make a new, you're never going to remake Scream, which is a mistake a lot of the late 90s, early 2000s slashers made. They all tried to be Scream. Even now, 20 some odd years later, people are still desperately trying to be Scream, and it's just like, stop. You're not Scream. You're not going to be Scream. Do your own thing. Make your own original story. And we were kind of like, man, have audiences just outgrown slashers? They're not that intelligent anymore. They're unfortunately just not very well written, not very well acted. And we were kind of like, man, this kind of sucks because you and I are, old school slasher fans. I know I am. I've always said it's my favorite genre of horror. Silent Night, Deadly Night gets it right. They get all the little things that we've complained about with a lot of the slashers this year. They fix it in terms of they don't take themselves too seriously, which I think some slashers of this age do. Like they try to take themselves way too seriously for what is a goofy slasher. They give you just enough story. Like imagine, if you will, you got a hook in the water and you're dangling trying to catch a fish. You're not gonna put the biggest. You're not gonna put the best bait on with your first hook. You want to put a little bit of bait on. This is kind of like that. Like it's. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and say this is Pulitzer Prize winning writing or anything like that. I'm not gonna sit here or tell you like this is literature. No, it's not that. But it gives you just enough story, just enough dialogue, just enough to kind of keep you on the hook. And then when you get to the killing, when you get to the slashing, when you get to the actual, the horror of this movie, it goes hard and it's fun. It feels you are a dyed in the wool Friday the 13th fan, and we always talk about what's honestly the best part of every Friday the 13th movie. It's the kills.
Oh
It's
yes.
not it's not how the campers got back to Camp Crystal Lake or how did Jason get resurrected. No, it's the kills. It's the sleeping bag. It's the pitchfork. It's whatever. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that that's necessarily the best part of Silent Night, Deadly Night, but there's DNA of that in this movie. There's DNA where you're like, oh, that kill and that kill, and I remember that kill, and I remember that moment and that moment, and you just sprinkle in just enough story to keep you on the hook till the end. Like I said, I'm not saying this is a template for what slashers should be. I'm saying this is a template for what some slashers, not all, what some slashers could be.
I think you nailed it in there, Damon, which is a lot of modern slashers take themselves very seriously. And if they're not taking themselves necessarily seriously, they're maybe overly sophisticated, which I think Hell of a Summer can be accused of. Like for all I loved about it, I loved how airtight the script was. The script was good. I don't care what you say. It's a good script. But it was almost so focused on the script that it kind of left behind the thing that people who love slashers love, which is the slashing and the killing and all that stuff. It didn't find the balance. Whereas I Know What You Did Last Summer, Refresh, that one took itself a little too seriously. I thought it was like not bad in particular. I was just like, okay, it's not making my top 10 this year, but nice try, decent try. But it does try to take itself too seriously. The new Scream movies, you could argue they try to take themselves a little seriously. Although I've had fun with those in general. This movie says, what if we just make it a little goofy? What if we really put the sensibility of a classic 80s movie into it, refine it just enough that we can keep you on the hook? And the hook itself is the thing. Like there's a hook in this movie. I can't talk about pre-spoilers that I was like, well, how's that going to play out? And it really keeps me on. It kept me on. It kept me going. I go, well, now I really want to know. So I forgave sort of the less refined elements of this movie, sort of the cheesier elements of this movie. They worked. It really worked. It struck a really funny balance for me. I was like, this is like if there was a good trauma movie, like a good one, not like okay or acceptable. Like, oh, this is actually good. Like it actually works for me. So I don't know how much more we can dance around it, Damon, because I'm sure the listeners are like, get the fuck on with it already. What else do we need to say about Silent Night, Deadly Night before we get to spoilers?
Yeah, it's hard because the big twist, the big like whatever you want to say, like the big difference between this movie and the original, you can't talk about without spoiling the movie, and so it's hard to dance around that. But overall, I think you can tell. Like you and I like this movie. I'm not saying this facetiously. I'm being honest. I liked it more than I thought I would. Like I did not go in with
Yes.
expectations to like this movie. I was like, oh man, I hope it's okay. But okay was like the high bar. The okay was
Yes.
the high bar, and it cleared that, and then some. Like I was shocked how much fun I had, and the great thing about horror, Patrick, and I know you know this, and I'm sure our audience at Mass knows this, but I'll just say it anyways. Like the great thing about horror is it can cross a lot of genres, a lot of boundaries, which is what one of my favorite things about horror. It could be horror sci-fi, it could be horror comedy, it could be horror drama, it could be horror thriller, it could be horror slasher if you want to consider that a genre of its own. Horror tinges on a lot of different elements, and then when you dig deeper, you dig through the layers, you can find family issues and relationship issues and trust issues. There's all kinds of layers in horror that I love when you get a really good one that just kind of like slips all that in there. We talked about this a few episodes back where I saw Rosemary's Baby as a kid and I loved it, and I still love it to this day. I know it's not your favorite movie, but I love it to this day. And then I saw a professor at a university talking about how she does a course and she talks about how that movie's actually about body autonomy and women having the right to choose. Went the way fuck over my head when I saw that when I was like, 13 or whenever I first saw Rosemary's Baby. But now that I rethink about it, I'm like, oh yeah, there is like a real analogy in there for that. There is a real, like, if you really think about it. Now, as I always say, you should never have to have a movie explained to you. Take from it what you will. If you just think it's a movie about the Antichrist and a woman getting pregnant or being assaulted and getting pregnant, that's what it's about for you. If it's about body autonomy and the right woman's rights to choose for somebody else, that's what it means to you. It doesn't always mean like I don't need you to feel the way about the movie I feel.
Mm-hmm.
But the great thing about Silent Night, Deadly Night is it's just like that. It rides such a perfect line of like old school slasher, goofy slasher, brutal slasher. And I know there's like, well, they're all slashers. They are all slashers, but those are three different genres of slashers all kind of tucked into one movie. And it's a real hard balancing act because I think a lot of the problem that people had with Hell of a Summer, just to use that one as an example, people thought, oh, it was funny, but it wasn't particularly well executed, and there was no real horror, no real gore, no real slashing, as you said. You talked about that as well. I would agree. There's not, like that was probably our biggest beef with the movies. Like we wanted like more brutal kills. We wanted more brutal, like, gore and actual slashing. But overall, we're like, it was a very well written movie, very well acted movie. Like, especially for a directorial debut for a couple of guys who are, I think at the time they directed like 20 years old. Like, way to go, Finn Wolfhard. And I can't remember his partner's name, but same kind of thing. Like, wow, what a way to go. For you and I, it worked minus a couple little details. Overall, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you Silent Night, Deadly Night is a top 10 horror film for me this year. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, oh man, it is like the can't miss movie of the year.
Yeah.
We've had those movies this year. I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but if you like horror, you're looking for a good holiday horror. I always do that. Like everyone's always like, "Oh, It's a Wonderful Life," or it's this. I'm like, I have like two Christmas movies I need to watch every year. Die Hard, which by the way, it is a Christmas movie. Fuck you if you think otherwise.
Well, and fuck me, it's not.
It is a Christmas. It is 100% a Christmas movie.
Not a Christmas movie.
It is a ho ho ho. I have a machine gun. It's a Christmas movie. Shut up. Anyways. And Christmas Vacation. Those are the only two Christmas movies I feel like I need to watch every single year. Now, I do like others. I think Gremlins is great. I love Black Christmas, but I love a good holiday horror. And this is one that perfectly fits in that category.
It really does. I will say, if you can get over the conceit of this movie, and we are about to get into that, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this. I really do. But I think it's time, Damon. We got to talk about this conceit, don't we?
Yeah, so we are now going to get into spoilers. So if you have not seen Silent Night, let me tell you this. Let me just mention this right now. Go see it in the theater. I know we're having a big discussion right now about potentially the death of theaters. I will rise up and start a revolution if they try to take movie theaters away, because it is like one of my great joys. I went to the theater tonight and I walked in, and I may have mentioned this earlier. When I walked in, the girl working the counter was just like, "Oh, I'm excited to see this, so let me know if it's good." Just the smell of the popcorn, like I think it's Christopher Moltisanti in the Sopranos. He said the smell of carpet and popcorn gets me high. It is like you walk in there and it's just like that smell. And sitting in the seats. And by the way, I don't know where your theater was at. Mine was crowded as hell. I was shocked. Like we had a pretty packed crowd. I was like, wow. And it was fun. Everyone reacted. Like, it was like that. Not overly. Not obnoxiously, but everyone was laughing at the right parts and reacting to the right parts. There is no better communal experience than the movie theater. So go see this in the movie theater. I'm telling you, it's worth your time. I know we always tell you to go to the movie theater, but this is a really fun one. Like if you're looking for a Christmas night out, maybe not with your kids, but like, your friends, your wives, whatever, go see Silent Night, Deadly Night. It is a lot of fun. I think you would agree.
I might even say if your kids can handle certain slashers, this one might actually work for them, believe it or not, because we're about to talk about why.
So with that being said, if you haven't seen Silent Night, Deadly Night before, we're now going to get into spoilers. Also, if you want early access to this episode and all of our episodes, patreon.com/Rwanda Living Dead. We are recording this on Thursday night as you and I have just seen the movie. It will be up on our Patreon with about 30 minutes of us finishing recording, which means they're going to get the episode about 5 days ahead of everyone else. So if you want early access, you also want our Welcome to Derry recaps. We have the final season finale coming up this weekend. So patreon.com/Rwanda Living Dead. check us out over there. With that being said, Patrick, we are now going to go full spoilers. Do you want to reveal the big plot twist, I guess, is the difference in this movie?
Oh, yes, Damon. Okay, so let's go all the way back to the beginning. I mean, this movie does open up with little Billy and his parents in the nursing home with the creepy janitor, the whole bit. I was like, man, it's really the fucking movie, isn't it? And they're just really redoing it again. And then they get in the car and they go home and mom and dad are arguing about something and you don't quite understand why. From the perspective of the kid, you're like, what are they really talking about? Something was wrong. And by the way, while they were over there, grandpa died right in front of Billy. Like it was fucked up. And then they get stopped. And I go, here we go. We're just doing the other movie again. Okay, I guess so. Yeah, Santa comes out, blows dad's head off with a shotgun. Mom gets a good hit on him, gets her heel right into his neck, and he starts spouting blood. I'm like, oh, cool, something a little different. He takes what little mustard power that he has left and blows her head all over the glass. I mean, that's why I talk about the Maniac moment. It was very much like in Maniac when Tom Savini's head gets sprayed all over the windshield. Very similar vibe in that moment. And then the kid Billy crawls out of the back and there's this dying Santa Claus. And then he gets really close to him as Santa Claus is reaching his hand out and Billy reaches his hand out. And then they cut away and they cut to Billy as a grown man, as Rowan Campbell. And he's clearly like fucked up from what was going on there. And then all of a sudden you hear this voice and it's a deep, gravelly voice. Just think Sid Haig, very similar to Sid Haig's voice, played by Mark Atchison, who could double as Sid Haig's brother, honestly. They look very similar. But it's Mark Atchison's voice, and it's the voice of that Santa guy. And he's in Billy's head. And Billy is out for the kill. And Santa is guiding him. And you're like, wait, did that I was like trying to rack my brain. I was like, was that happening in the other movie? It really didn't feel familiar. Then, and I'm going to jump around real quick, and then we'll kind of get into the flow of the movie. They flash back and forth to that fateful night. And in one of those jump backs, you see Billy's hand grab Santa's hand, and all of the sudden, Damon, it's like he got hit with the deadlights. Like Billy's eyes go up into the sky, and all of a sudden there's like lightning bolts and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what the fuck are we trying to say here? What they're saying here, Damon, is that Billy and Santa, who's called Charlie, had some sort of psychic connection when they grabbed hands that night. And now Charlie lives in his head, and Charlie doesn't just tell him who to kill. He tells him why to kill them. And it turns out Charlie has a radar for bad guys. Billy, our axe-wielding Santa, Damon, is basically Dexter in a Santa suit. I did not see that shit coming from anywhere, any angle. I'd seen a few minor spoilers online, but that was one where I was like, what the fuck? So you're telling me Billy Chapman's a good guy?
I mean, the ultimate anti-hero twist, right? Like he is a brutal axe-wielding slasher who's only taken out the bad guys. I fucking loved it. I loved that twist. And by the way, when I said it, they don't give it to you early. Like you have to get about 30 minutes. Like, cause when you meet Billy in the hotel, when you first meet him as an adult, when he wakes up from the nightmare of his parents being murdered, he's already killed someone who's like in the bathtub. He's murdered them and he's like getting ready to move on to his next like kill. He's getting ready to move on to his next town. And when he arrives in this town, he's eating at a diner and he gets a glimpse of a beautiful woman. He's like, ooh, who's that? And he's like, and Charlie in his head's like, this is a bad idea. Don't do it. Like basically he has a crush on her. He wants to be near her. So he goes across the street to Ida's like trinket shop, which in the original movie, it was Ira's toy shop. Now it's Ida's trinket shop. And it's like an all Christmas store. And it's like December 20th when this movie starts, and they're hiring for someone for the holidays, which why you haven't hired someone with 5 days left till Christmas, neither here nor there. But he goes in, he meets the woman of his dreams. Her name is Pam, beautiful young girl, and he wants to be near her, and he sees, ooh, help wanted. So he goes in, he basically says, I want to get hired. He gets hired as a stock boy and a cashier at this Christmas shop owned by Pam's father. And so The first like 30, and by the way, so he gets to the shop, he sees a guy in there who's kind of weird, like an older guy. He's kind of flirting with Pam. He's like, "Oh, if I was younger, I would definitely go out with you." And Charlie's like, "Yeah, we got to kill that guy." And still to this point in the movie, you're kind of like, "Oh, he's just picking people to kill. Like he's not. There's no
Yeah.
purpose to it yet." And he goes over to this guy's house and brutally murders him. And once again, you're like, "All right, this feels. It's different. It's not the same movie as Silent Night, Deadly Night, but still reminiscent. He's just picking people out and murdering them." Remember Silent Night, Deadly Night, to spoil a movie that's over 30 years old, he just goes on a killing spree. Like he snaps one
Right.
day. He works at a toy store. He has a crush on a woman. The woman spurns him. He just flips out and just starts killing people left and right and goes on a giant murder spree. This one is not that. This guy's more calculated. He's got the voice in his head telling him who to kill. So he kills this first guy, and still you're like, okay, he's just randomly picking people to kill. It's not until a little later, and this is the part where I talked about earlier, the party. He goes. He tried this woman. He goes to a hockey practice with Pam and her sister's kid, her nephew, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to go to this hockey practice with me and hang out?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course I do, because I have a crush on you." And they're sitting there, and while they're there, one of the mothers of the children is like basically cursing, like, "Yeah, run your fucking ass off, you fucking suck," and like, whoa, lady, like, what's going on? And so immediately Charlie's like, her. She's the one. Now, once again, you're kind of like, okay, she's kind of a foul-mouthed mom, but like not a bad person. Like, okay, so we're just kind of rolling with it. We're just killing people to kill people. It's not until you find out where this lady's hanging out on her Friday night. He goes to find her like an hour away, a town away at this party. Open the door. It is a giant Nazi party. Like they literally call it the White Power Christmas party, which I was like, the fuck? And Billy's like, Charlie's like, what are we gonna do here? We got to kill the woman. We got to kill this mom. He's like, oh no, they're all bad here. They're all naughty. I'm taking them all out. And so he just goes on an axe-happy killing spree, murdering Nazis. That's where the turning point happens, where you're like, oh yeah, he's not just killing at random. He's not just killing at the voice in his head. The voice in his head is telling him bad people to kill, naughty people to kill. And so that is the big twist. He is not just killing at random. He is not just a senseless serial killer. He's killing people who actually deserve to be killed, as you said. Very Dexter Morgan.
Yes. Charlie has the naughty list and he uses Billy to give the naughty people what they deserve, which is an axe to the fucking dome. And it is really that scene at the Nazi Christmas party that really won me over because they were just like, fuck it, we are going to slay an entire building full of Nazis. They set it up properly. Like everybody's got to check their guns at the door, which is probably a good idea on a Nazi party night where everybody's drinking. So check your guns at the door. They go to check Santa. Okay, Santa, you're good to go in. And he goes in and he realizes what the fuck's going on. And the movie up to that point shows very clearly that he fights back against Charlie's instincts all the time. And part of that was fighting to hang out with Pam. He's like, I kind of want this normal life with this woman. And Pam's kind of a weirdo too. Like she goes off and beats the shit out of the kids that are bullying her nephew. Like she's kind of got a screw loose herself. And Charlie's like, I don't think that's a good idea. I think what we should do is go kill people that I say you should kill. And you're just like, this is fucking weird. Like this shit is weird. But then they go in there and they slay a bunch of Nazis, and you're like, "Fuck yeah!" Like it was good. I mean, they really go for it. The most of the body count is about whatever there is, about 30 Nazis in that party. They all get slayed, and you're like, "Hell yeah, I'm in! I'm in!" Now, not only am I in, I'm rooting for Billy Campbell to slay people. But there's still that hanging Chad, isn't there, Damon? Right? Like, didn't this first guy he killed, George? He was just kind of a creepy guy. That doesn't make any sense. Then you find out that when the cops finally find George, I think it's Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, they're like, oh shit, there's like a dead body rolled up in George's crawl space. It's his wife. George killed his wife. You're realizing, oh, like Charlie knows literally the worst of the worst. Yes, the Nazis, but also this guy's over here killing his wife. Also, just in the background of this movie, there's this guy called the Snatcher that's going around town stealing kids. That's kind of in the back of his head. And Charlie's like, we're going to figure that out. We're going to find that out. But because it's because he killed George. And Pam again does not know the voices that are going on in Billy's head. She's like, "Will you please put the Santa suit on and be Santa for us, please?" And Charlie's in his head going, "That's not a good idea because when we wear the Santa suit, we sort of kill the fuck out of people. So you can't just be sitting there with 9-year-olds on your lap wearing the Santa suit because we might get to killing because this is like an illness. Like Charlie even understands it's like a bad thing, and we haven't done anything real bad in like 10 years. So they even give just a little hair a backstory to say like there may have been times when he killed the wrong person because when you're in that suit for too long, it can fuck you up." He also has this little advent calendar that counts the 25 days of Christmas. And he needs to kill, I think, 25 people to satiate this bloodlust, to satiate this thing. And so it's kind of like, ah, shit, like I don't really want to sit and wear this Santa suit, but he wears it. And he wears it proudly and he gets through it, he powers through it, and it turns out to turn Pam way the fuck on, and she decides to bone him in the stock closet. And life is kind of going good for Billy. Like you're like, wow, this is drastically different than the original film because things only kept going downhill for Billy. You know, like with the evil nun and all that shit. Like it was just a feel bad movie all the way, and that's kind of why I like the original. So this movie's starting to feel good, but you know, Damon, you are smart. You understand these movies. You understand the pattern of storytelling. When things start getting good, that means things are about to start getting bad.
Yeah, 100%. And Billy, like, so during this whole time, we learned that Pam's ex is a cop named Max who actually abused her. We learned at one point, she's like, "You punch me. We are never getting back together." And Max is like, "I'm sorry." You know, of course, what all abusers say, "I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." And Billy, gets a hint that something's off with Max. And then during all of this, we know this other guy out there, the Snatcher. They basically pull their black phone, said the grabber is the Snatcher. And after leaving work one day, Pam's father, who is like the totally wholesome dad, owns this trinket shop, is going outside and he hears a noise in a car parked like across the way from his shop, and he hears this banging, this kind of like mumbled voices. He's like, "What's going on over there?" He goes to the truck, looks in the back, and he sees a kid zip tied and gagged in the back of this truck, and he's like, "Oh shit!" So he goes to try to free him, and then out of nowhere, the Snatcher comes up and literally just shoots her father in the head, kills him dead. So Pam's father has been murdered, and you're like, "Oh shit!" And this brings back full circle to the whole Snatcher idea, which is there's a child kidnapper out there somewhere stealing these kids. And when her father dies, Billy decides, against Charlie's recommendation, to come clean to Pam. "I'm going to come clean." So he tells her everything. Parents being murdered. And this is where you learn the big twist about the parents. It turns out Billy's parents were not good people. They poisoned his grandfather at the nursing home so they could get his inheritance. So his parents were evil fucks too. So when Charlie the Santa guy kills his parents, they were on the naughty list too. And it's funny, there actually was I think what got the biggest laugh out of my theater was at the beginning of the movie when they're in the car with young Billy at the very beginning, and he's like, "What happened to Grandpa?" And his dad goes, "He's dead, son." They don't laugh. They're like, "Why sugarcoat? He's dead." It was funny. Anyways, so you find out that his parents were evil fucks too. Like they killed his grandfather for his money, for their inheritance. And so he tells the story that when he touched Charlie, the spirit of this like entity of Charlie went into him, and now it's like Venom. A better Venom, because the Venom movies have sucked. They are terrible, terrible, terrible movies. This is a better Venom movie than the Venom movies. Like, it's the voice in the head telling him what to do 1,000 times better than the Tom Hardy Venom movies. So he decides to come clean and tell Pam everything. Parents were evil. Charlie killed him. I touched Charlie. I got sort of somehow imbibed by his spirit, and now he talks to me. He tells me what it is, and at one point he's like, "Charlie said you're nice," or something like that. And she's kind of looking at him like, "All right, this guy's kind of fucked up, but I dig him, and we've already boned, and so I guess we're just going to kind of give him a pass here." And they decide to go on the hunt to find the guy who killed her father. And so they eventually get, and I remember, so the very beginning of the movie, Billy kills a guy who owned what was the shop he owned?
It was like a tree company. It was
tree company. Yeah, Christmas trees. Yeah, that's what it was, Christmas trees. He kills a guy, But when he goes outside to get away to leave the hotel where he left the guy dead, he sees there like a cop and another guy over there talking by the truck. Come to find out, the guy he killed at the beginning of the movie, Max, who is Pam's ex, and this other guy who runs this other tree shop, they've actually been the ones kidnapping, and we have to imagine trafficking these children. They never say it out loud, but you kind of get
Yeah.
that
They're
sense of
not
what
killing
they're
them.
doing.
They have them.
Yeah. And so they go to this house, they go to the place, and they find him. Charlie, of course, has like this sixth sense. He's almost like, I kind of compared it to Frailty, where like this whole time in Frailty, which is a
Yes.
fucking brilliant movie. We love that movie. Where you're like, oh, this guy's a bad guy, he's a bad guy. Then you find out that he's actually killing bad people. Not going to tell you the whole plot of that movie, but that's like, the big thing is like he's actually killing bad people. And so they go to the house where they got, and Pam finds the kids down in this little crawl space, starts pulling them out, and Billy's like helping her pull him out. And then out of nowhere, here comes the other guy. He's wearing a real creepy, like old school Santa mask, not a suit, like a Santa mask. And he attacks Billy. He's actually, I'm sorry, he's already down in the basement. He's down in the like basement crawl space area. He attacks Pam. Billy jumps down there to save Pam. Billy and this guy get into a tussle, and he stabs Billy a bunch of times. Pam gets out to save the children. Billy eventually crawls out of the crawl space, and he's stabbed. He's bleeding out, but he's like, I think I got him. And then you hear Charlie say, you cut his head off. I think you got him. So it's pretty. They actually don't show him cutting his head off. Although, by the way, that's not like a lack of gore. There's plenty of gore in this movie. They just didn't literally show him sawing this guy's head off with a box cutter is what he used. So Billy's bleeding out, but they save the kids. They go outside, and as soon as Billy gets outside, bam, 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 Max has arrived, and he shoots Billy. And you're like, fuck! Like, we're rooting for Billy. Now we have a reason to root for Billy. There's no moral ambiguity about Billy, by the way. This is not a Dexter thing where Dexter accidentally kills the wrong people occasionally in that show. These are all like, they literally... Here's what I love, the ridiculous nature of the writing of this movie, but I love it. They don't want to give you any moral ambiguity about who you're killing in this movie. So he kills a room full of fucking Nazis, and he kills a fucking child predator sex trafficker. Like,
Yeah.
they're literally, we don't want to give you any reason to potentially root against Billy. We don't want it to be like it was a guy who killed for necessity, he was broke, or I don't know, like whatever reason you could give a guy to kill, or like he was trying to save his family. No. Nazis and sex trafficking children. There's no moral ambiguity there. You want to kill these people. And I love that.
It is such a unique turn in the slasher genre where there's very good reason to root for the slasher. There's such good reason to say he needs to kill these people. We need him to win. They have tried. I mean, there have been times in Friday the 13th where Jason killed the right guy, like some guy trying to mess with a woman or something like that. Jason just, folds him in half or something. Like he's like, fuck that guy. But also Jason is also still mindlessly killing a lot of people that don't deserve to die. This was a slasher where I was like, by the end, I was rooting for him to slash people. I was like, yes, no, get that guy, get him. Like it's, and this incredible second sight, whatever it is that Charlie is imbued with, is of course now in Billy, but he's bleeding out, and Max is still there. But good news is, and when Billy was telling Pam his long story about it, both Billy and Charlie had something in common. They had sort of something wrong with their head. They're sort of hypersensitive people. Well, guess who else is super hypersensitive? Miss beat the shit out of a couple of 14-year-olds on a hockey rink because they messed with her nephew. Pam also has that short fuse, and they call it EPD or something in her brain, where she just flies off the handle for the wrong reasons, sometimes for the right reasons, but it's definitely inappropriate behavior.
No impulse control. No impulse control.
No impulse control, but usually for the right reasons. So perfect candidate. So she grabs Billy's hand at the last moment, and it's actually kind of touching because it's Charlie is fading away. He's going, man, I should have seen that guy. I apologize. I messed up. Thanks for like working with me this whole time. Reach out to her, man, like and guide her the way I guided you. Like you can do it. You can do it. Like it was like Charlie's a father figure to Billy. Like he's actually a good guy. Like, hey, we're gonna go kill a bunch of people. I'm just gonna make sure they're the right ones. He reaches out, he gets Pam's hand and transfers his killer instinct to her, but now Billy lives inside her head. Charlie's gone. So we lose Charlie in the process. We lose one of our good guys. We lose the other good guy too. We lose Billy. But now he lives on in Pam's head, and Pam proceeds to kill the shit out of evil fucking Max. Fuck that guy too. Fuck a fucking corrupt cop, right? Like who's trafficking kids. She kills the fuck out of him. End credits. And I go, damn, dude, what a fun little romp with this really insane idea that on paper probably shouldn't work. But when you contextualize it in the space of like a kind of a fun 80s slasher and put all of the right things on there and not the dumb things from 80s slashers, you get this movie that is actually pretty good. And I'm like, man, lucky us for having what I consider another very legit Christmas horror movie to put on the pile every year.
What's funny is when you first meet Billy and you hear the voices in his head, you're just kind of thinking to yourself like he's schizophrenic, like he's just got voices in his head telling him who to kill. That's not uncommon, by the way. I mean, there's been a million serial killer cases like that. I think the Son of Sam very famously said voices in his head told him to kill. So that's not like anything new. So at the beginning, you're kind of like, okay, this dude's just off his rocker, like he's got voices in his head telling him what to do. So, and by the way, when you first hear Charlie, you don't know it's Charlie. You just know it's a real deep, gravelly voice guy being like, go get her, kill her. And you're like, all right, there's a little bit of Venom, a little bit of Dexter. Like, we don't know what's going on here. Whatever it is, he's just killing, okay? And then by the end, you realize that, like, Charlie was a good dude. Like, he was almost like an Avenger in a way, like a dark Avenger, but an Avenger. He was killing bad people who needed to be killed to kind of balance the world, is what he was basically saying. Like, we're going to kill the bad people to save the good people. And so by the end of the movie, not only are you rooting for Billy, but when Billy gets shot by Max, you're like, fuck Max, fuck this guy, because they show him in a flashback taking money, literally handing kids over in a trunk to some other people, which is where you really, not that you didn't know they were trafficking them, but you definitely get it at that point. And you're like, man, fuck this guy. Like, he beats his girlfriend and he's a sex trafficker. This guy's got to go. He shoots Billy, and like our hero, like weirdly, our hero, Billy, has been shot and killed. You're like, no. And then, Pam and Billy's like, are you sure you want this? Or are you ready for this? And she grabs his hand, transfers his energy to her. And then she goes over, as you said, kills the shit out of Max. And then he's just like, he's like, Pam. And she's like looking, and Billy's dead on the ground, bleeding out. She's like, no, I'm here with you. And now Charlie's voice has become Billy's voice, and he's in her head. It is so weird the way it all worked. And like when they did that transfer spirit energy thing, like the flashback with Charlie, I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? It worked. It actually worked. And I was legitimately bummed when they killed Billy. I was like, no, I've just come to love Billy. Like, because like I said, they keep you on the hook for a long enough time to where you're not totally sure. Like, you're not really sure what he's doing. The Nazis are kind of what puts you over the top. When he kills the Nazis, you're like, oh yeah, okay, he's not just killing bad. But even then, even in that moment, you don't know for sure, because you're just like, well, maybe just he's a room full of Nazis. Even the worst person in the world would want to kill a bunch of Nazis. You'd have to hope.
You'd hope.
But it just, like, they do a really good job of just peppering out just enough information. So by the time you get to the sex traffickers, Billy's actually a good dude. He's a murderer. He's a serial killer, but he's a good dude. And the ending of transferring Billy's spirit consciousness into Pam, and now she is going to be the avenging angel. She is going to be the killer with the heart of gold. She is going to be the dark passenger of Dexter. You're like, fuck yeah. It is it actually is kind of a sad ending, because you come to actually enjoy and like Billy, but now Billy lives on as the voice in Pam's head. And I was just like, this is better. I'm not kidding when I say this is better than every Venom movie they've ever made. Like, every Venom movie is like a voice in Brock's head telling him who to go after, what you should be doing, and blah, blah, blah. And they're all really, really, really bad movies. This is like a voice in the head where it's actually pretty cool.
I've seen those damn Venom movies. My kids love them. They're terrible movies. They're really bad. But Damon, we got a good one. Honestly, I'm excited to revisit this movie every year. Like, this is to me, it's a great Christmas movie.
And here's the thing, like, I was talking about this, I can't remember who it was posted on TikTok. Might have been our friend Horror Movie Mafia Dom had put this out. I think he had put it out about Black Christmas versus Another slash, I mean, Halloween or something. Like, what's the better?
Yeah, I don't remember which one he did. Today he did Krampus versus Art the Clown. I'm like, oh,
But I
Krampus stops a fucking mud hole in Art.
but I think he actually did Black Christmas versus Halloween. Like, what's
I
the
think he
better
did.
holiday horror movie? And I actually said, like, I love Halloween. I'm not saying Halloween's not great. It's a classic. It changed the genre. It did. I mean, like it or you don't have to love it, but it changed the slasher genre of that we know it today. But I actually argued, I said, I think Black Christmas is a better overall movie because it actually gives you like a really, really deep plot and it's fucking dark. I mean, that movie
Yeah.
is incredibly messed up. I love Black Christmas. That movie, when it's over, like, you and I are gut punch guys. We love to end a movie on a good gut punch. We are fans of The Mist. We love to get gut punched at the end of the movie. But like I said, occasionally you want a little levity. Not saying Billy getting shot dead is levity, but this is a movie with Nazis and child traffickers is somehow kind of a feel good movie because of the message, because it's like we're killing bad people. Black Christmas I adore, but like when I watch Black Christmas, I want to be in a mood where I'm like, this is fucking dark. Like this is really ominous, dark shit.
Yeah.
Weirdly, Silent Night, Deadly Night, even though I was kind of like, oh man, it sucks that Billy got killed, by the end I was like, God, like this was a fun movie. Like I had a good time. Which,
Oh,
like I said,
weirdly,
in a movie with Nazis and child traffickers, I somehow had a good time.
weirdly feel good movie of the year.
Who would have thunk it?
Not me.
Patrick, should we get into some categories?
Let's do it.
Let's kick things off as we do each and every week here on the show, and let's talk about best performance. So when it comes to Silent Night, Deadly Night, who gets your best performance?
Damon, my best performance goes to the man himself, Rohan Campbell as Billy. Let's be real, Damon, but at least in this podcast, he had an uphill battle right from the start. He is in two movies that we do not like. Or I know you. I think you were okay with the monkey. I didn't like the monkey.
I
But
didn't. I,
we
didn't- I didn't really like it either. It was all right. Yeah.
but we really don't like Halloween Ends, and you really, really don't like Halloween Ends, but I don't like it. So I was just like, damn, this guy's got a lot stacked against him, and it's not really his fault. And now here he is in kind of a low budget slasher remake. We'll see how it goes. By the end, he was somebody I was legitimately rooting for. And I really do think it had to do with his performance. He saw the line that he had to ride and he did it. And he did it. He's like, I have to be a vicious killer, but I have to be one that you like. I have to be one that you sympathize with. And I can't give you a reason to hate me. And boy, I've spent two other movies giving you all the reasons to hate me. So he had to do a full character switch. He really had to create a tone that made people go, "Man, I like Billy Campbell. I like this guy." Rohan did it. Excuse me, I said Billy Campbell. His name is Rohan Campbell.
Yeah, Rohan Campbell and Billy Campbell is a character too,
Oh,
right?
is
Yeah,
he
it's
is
Billy.
he is he also Billy Campbell? He is. Oh no, he's
Yeah,
Billy
that's Billy. Yes,
Chapman.
Billy
Billy
Chapman.
Chapman.
We can. I think I said Billy Campbell throughout this entire
I
show.
think I
I'm
said
sorry.
it
Yeah,
too. Yes.
yeah, Billy Chapman. Sorry about
Let's
that.
redact the entire podcast.
Yeah, so we kept saying Billy Campbell, who is an actor, if I'm not mistaken. There, Billy Campbell is an actor, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't
I
know.
think. Anyways, yeah, I mean, listen, the real answer is Rohan Campbell, and yes, we joked earlier about my feelings towards him as Corey in Halloween Ends, but that's not his fault. I'm talking, we always talk about separating the art from the artist. That's a great example of separating the art from the artist because he didn't write it, he just performed it, and while it was an absolute dog shit movie, not his fault. He did nothing wrong. He just played a part in a movie that I absolutely despised. Like I said, David Gordon Green, you and me, celebrity death match. One of us go, two of us go in, only one of us comes out. But I didn't think it was a bad performer, but it is kind of a running joke because of how much I hate that movie. And the monkey didn't exactly endear him to me either. This movie was like the Rohan Campbell redemption arc. Like this was like his redemption story because he did a really killer job in this movie. He was funny. I think what the best part about this performance is like, as I mentioned, they don't tell you the big reveal until like I said, probably about halfway through the movie where you really figure out that he's a good guy killing bad guys. Up to that point, you don't know what he is, and he plays it perfectly. Like you're not sure, like because when he has that Santa moment when he dresses in the suit, you're like, oh shit, he's just gonna murder a bunch of 9-year-olds, isn't he? And because he plays it so well to where you're not totally sure. you're not really sure you can trust this guy. It's not until late in the movie when you totally figure out he's actually not a bad guy. But he plays it perfectly. And that takes a talented performer to pull that off because he knows from reading the script where it's going. And you and I both know, Patrick, we've seen movies and TV shows where the acting of a certain person, when they know where the arc is going to end up, you get hints of that in the performance. Oh, they're going to be redeemed, or oh, they're actually a bad guy but not a good guy. I'm not going to name it. There was a very famous show on that I love, by the way, an HBO show I absolutely adore, but there was a character in there that was during the show, and we're just like, oh yeah, he's not a good guy. There's no way. And sure enough, by the end of it, now didn't ruin the show. Still loved the show. It was a great show. But I knew just from the performance, I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely an evil shit, and he was an evil shit. I thought Rohan Campbell did a really good job of playing an anti-hero and pulled it off. To that point, I do want to give a little flowers. I guess my best performance, kind of tacking onto that, the other major performance in the movie, anyways, is Ruby Modine, who is Matthew Modine's daughter. So a little nepo babyism here going on here. But she did a really, really good job. And I kept seeing her in the movie. And I was like, God, where do I know her from? I know her from something. She was in Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. So I was like, oh, that's where I know her from. She's great. She plays the great, like, the Thelma to his Louise. She does a really good job playing the counterpart to Billy. And by the end of the movie becomes the heroine. So I enjoyed her performance as well.
She's one of these people that's very charming despite the fact she has a screw loose. Like that's the thing is you root for her even though you know she's a little unhinged because she's not a bad person. And so she's kind of a great mirror to Billy, the Billy Chapman, where it's just like, yeah, this is kind of the line that I'm writing. I'm trying to be a good person, but I really can't help this one really bad impulse in my life. So they complement each other really well.
Yeah, they do a good job. Patrick, next category, let's talk about our MVP. So when it comes to Silent Night, Deadly Night, remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it, who gets your MVP for this entire film?
My MVP goes to writer director Mike P. Nelson for this script, for this idea that he came up with. He knew what he was up against. He knew what he was signing on to remake. He knew, I'm sure, knew very well the lore and the fandom around the original film. And he's like, I really want to make it my own. I really want to pivot this thing and try something different with it. And he did it. He did it correctly. He did it right. That's so hard to do. I mean, literally, the other thing we're talking about tonight was Halloween Ends, which is I want to pivot away from Halloween. And boy, did it not work. Boy, did that not work. Don't pivot that way. Please do not. But Mike P. Nelson took a very well-known slasher and changed it at its core, and it still worked out.
I was really impressed by that because if you remember, you go back to our Wrong Turn podcast, we did not particularly enjoy that movie. Which, by the way, I didn't even realize that starred Matthew Modine. Didn't even think about that. That actually had Matthew Modine.
Oh, that makes sense now. How the Modines are all connected.
It just popped in my head. He was in that movie. Yeah, like I wasn't blown away by that, and so you never know what a guy's going to eventually do. And I thought he did a great job. But for me, Patrick, I'm going to give my MVP, and I know I'm probably giving it to one name, and I'm sure there's a lot more attached to this when I say this, but I'm just giving it to this one name, which is Cineverse, the studio behind this. Of course, Cineverse is also the studio or the funding behind the Terrifier movies. And I know they are related in some way, shape, or form to Bloody Disgusting, the website. Listen, we talk all the time about indie horror and these little tiny horror films. We talk about Shudder. We love Shudder. Hey, Shudder.
Hi, Shudder.
And Cineverse and Bloody Disgusting have their own service called Screenbox that they promote, their own streaming service. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that everything they put out is genius. It's not. I'm not going to lie to you and say, man, you got to see this. No, a lot of it is bad. And I think a lot of it they know is bad. Like when you're making, I don't think they made Popeye the Slayer Man, but when you make Popeye the Slayer Man, you're not making this to think, man, we're about to win some awards. You're making this because you know it's going to be bad, it's going to be stupid, it's going to be fun, and you're hoping people kind of get the ironic nature of really bad slasher movies or really bad horror movies. I'm not telling you Cineverse makes nothing but hits. But without Cineverse, you don't get Terrifier 2. You don't get Terrified. You would not. I mean, Art the Clown is freaking iconic now. You cannot. Everyone knows who Art the Clown is. If you wear it, I wear Art the Clown t-shirts occasionally. I wear an Ice Nine Kills t-shirt with Art the Clown on it. Without fail, I get comments. without wherever I go. Doesn't matter. I can be in a freaking restaurant, like nice restaurant, steakhouse. I wear that, and they're like, "Oh, Art the Clown," or "Oh." It is an iconic thing. That is partially due to Cineverse because they funded and backed this project. Same thing with Silent Night, Deadly Night. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you it's the most genius film ever made. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's the best movie of the year. It's not, but it's fun, and it made me enjoy a remake to the point where I'm like, yeah, I want to revisit this next year. And that to me is talent. Like when you can do that where I'm like, yeah, I want to watch this. I mean, any movie you're like, I want to watch that again. That's good because that's a repeat customer. Without Cineverse backing these projects, we wouldn't have it.
No, we wouldn't. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Terrifier guy. I'm really not. But I will say this, like you got to take risks. And I think this was a risky premise in general, and Cineverse was willing to do it.
Yeah, good for them. Patrick, next category. What is your best kill / best gore? And as we've said, there is plenty of that in this movie.
There's plenty of this in the movie, and there is a scene which is, I guess, sort of a montage scene, really, where he's explaining to Pam all the different types of people that he's killed and why. And there's one guy who gets, and he's very creative, uses a lot of different tools, but in this instance, he was using a hammer to the guy's face, and boy, I mean, they cut to this guy's face, and it looked like ground beef, and I was like, damn, okay, let's go hard. Like there's plenty that I want to praise from this movie, kills wise. I just chose the one that I was just like, I'm glad you put the camera there, like that was really effective.
The really cool part about that kill too is he hammers him, and he turns around the claw side and hammers him again. So
Yeah.
he takes full use of the hammer. My best kill is, I'm just gonna say all Nazis. That was a cool one.
Yes.
Just because everyone in that room dying. At one point he slashes someone's stomach open, their intestines fall out. He's beheading people. But the real one from that is the end with the lady. I can't remember her name, the parent.
Yes.
She rides off on a four-wheeler. She escapes because she busts out a machine gun, tries to kill her. Tries to kill Billy. She doesn't do it. She kills a bunch of other people just by winging a machine gun around. And she escapes out the back, jumps on a four-wheeler, and she's going to the snow. And you know it's not going to end well for this lady. You absolutely know something bad's going to happen. There's Billy hiding behind a tree with his axe. When she goes flying by, classic, slices her open, her head. But the cool thing is it's not just a straight up decapitation. He literally slices her head in half. Like not her head off. He slices her right down the middle. So it's just like the top half of her head is gone. I love that. So it's kind of like a cheating here. I'm saying all Nazis dead because that's always a good thing. And then the lady at the end getting her head lopped off. Just the whole Nazi thing was awesome. Just killing Nazis.
Yeah, I mean, this is why you and I are hetero life mates, because this is exactly how my brain was working too. I was like, of course, the Nazi kill is like my favorite one in the whole movie. It really is. Like, I just love seeing him just slay all these Nazis. It's like, good, yeah, let's keep that going in the discourse. By the way, we don't like Nazis, and I'm not going to cry to see them go. But I did love that it was kind of the icing on the cake, and her name was Delphine. She's getting away on an ATV, and it's sort of a nod to I think it was the sledding kill from the original Silent Night, Deadly Night, where he decapitates someone, but just like this movie does with everything else, it took it one step higher, and he slices her right down the middle of her head, and has the top of her head lopped off. It was just glorious, Damon. Who doesn't love a good Nazi kill?
And I want to go back, and I know I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm going to repeat myself. If you want to find a way to work some magic in a movie and find you'd hope a guaranteed way to get your audience to root for you, kill Nazis, kill sex traffickers. They pulled a duo. I'm trying to think of like a third, like what would be the third strike in this one, but those are two pretty big ones. I was so happy to see the Nazis all get murdered, which by the way, fuck Nazis, all of you. I would
Fuck
love
Nazis, if we're not clear.
I would love to see you all get fucking decapitated. And then obviously the sex traffickers. I was like, way to go. What a combo there. Just, go for the lowest depths of life and just wipe them out. I loved it.
Go for the scum on the shit of the boot. Like just the fucking worst of the worst. It was absolutely glorious.
The scum on the underside of the boot that's been sitting there for like 3 weeks. That's how bad it is. Patrick, next category. What other holiday horror needs a fresh take? Now, we're not talking about a remake necessarily. We're talking about what holiday has had horror films made about it. Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever. What other holiday needs a good reboot what we just got with Silent Night Deadly, which, by the way, obviously, Christmas is a very popular, horror film, very
Yeah.
popular horror genre. For you, Patrick, what holiday deserves a horror remake?
Damon, this is going to sound very cliche, but I think it's for good reason. We need a new Halloween horror movie. I think we get movies and why the category is very specifically what holiday horror needs a fresh take. Every Halloween movie I've ever seen feels derivative of another one. Like they kind of all play on the same thing. I think back to Season of the Witch, which we actually did for Halloween this season. That's something where I was like, wow, that's something I don't ever see for Halloween. That is a very left field movie. We need something like that again. And I'll go one step further, Damon. The Halloween franchise needs a fresh take. So not only am I saying the holiday itself needs a fresh take horror, the actual franchise Halloween needs something new in it as well.
It's funny. I almost went with that myself, but then I remembered one of the more recent ones that I loved. I know you hate it. I'm just saying I personally loved it. Was Late Night with the Devil. That was a Halloween horror film. I adored that film. You hated it. It was my favorite film a couple years ago. But I almost went that route
Last
because
year
it was like, was it last year? God, it feels like we're
was
talking a long year. It feels like forever ago. Um, but yeah, I didn't use that because I was like, but I'm glad you did because I almost went there. But for me, Patrick, I'm going to go for a little bit different one. I'm going to go with New Year's Eve / New Year's Day. Now, I'm trying to remember. I know there's one, which is Terror Train, the movie with Jamie Lee Curtis, where they're on a
yes.
train, they're celebrating the holiday, and a masked killer jumps on board and starts killing people. It's not a particularly well-made movie. It's not a particularly good movie,
No.
but it's Jamie Lee Curtis. It's fun. It's a decent enough slasher. Not one of her better ones. It's not as good as Prom Night. Certainly not as good as Halloween or some of the other, or The Fog, which is another one she was in. It's like the lesser of like that era of Jamie Lee Curtis
Yeah.
horror films. So something in that regard, like something new, because like we think about holiday horror and we think about like now we have a couple Thanksgiving movies. Obviously, Eli Roth made a pretty fun slasher we enjoyed a couple years ago. There's a million Christmas movies. There's obviously a billion Halloween movies beyond just the Halloween franchise. It's the most popular, popular holiday for horror fans. And we just got a pretty good Valentine's Day one last year with Hard Eyes.
That's great.
We need a New Year's Day because that is like I remember growing up. It feels like it doesn't happen as much anymore, but like New Year's Eve used to be one of the biggest. Like that was the parties. That was the party holiday. Like everyone went out and got trashed on New
Yeah.
Year's Eve. Feels like less people do it nowadays. Like me personally, I'll be sitting at home watching Stranger Things and probably getting ready to record a podcast. But like when I was a kid, I know we're basically the same age. Like you remember, people would like plan their whole fucking year around New Year's Eve. Like they would like, and it feels like that's right for a horror film because you got a million people in a party, a million people in Times Square, whatever it is. It is right for a horror film.
I was just telling my son about the family New Year's Eve parties that we had growing up. I'm from Southern California, but I think you could label me a redneck or a dirtbag like growing up. Like really the what you would imagine is what we were up to. I'm talking about when the clock strikes midnight, the guns start going off, like that kind of stuff. Like it was a wild bunch. And my son was like his eyes were like, what the fuck? Like that, a family party? A family party. I go, yeah, shit goes wild on New Year's Eve, or at least it used to. It certainly doesn't for me anymore. Those days are over for me. But you are right, Damon. A party on New Year's Eve, many different settings. There's many different ways to play it. It could be at a bar. It could be at the New Year's Eve ball. It could be at a house party. It could be whatever. There's many different places that opportunity can arise. And I think you nailed it, Damon. I think that's one that is highly underused and could use a fresh take.
Yeah, I think just something different. Patrick, next category: can we survive this horror film? Now, I know the answer right off the bat, and I'm just going to give it. We are not going to be on Billy's radar. I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. I'm far from a perfect person. But I know for a fact I am not a vile, evil shit like the guys he's killing in this movie. So I think we're pretty good. If anything, we might be candidates to take over Billy's job for him. We might be the guys to Billy's like, hey, let me pass on my spirit and guide you to kill people. Like I said, I'm not saying we're perfect. We're not angels. Certainly not that. But I know you and I are not doing the vile shit that people are doing in this movie that gets them killed. So we're making it. And like I said, one of us could be the candidate to take on Billy's spirit.
Oh yeah, I think both of us are very enthusiastic to go out and slay those who are doing wrong to the world. But certainly, in a fantastical sense. Yeah, Damon, this is an easy, safe one for us. We're not on his radar, and more than likely we jump in and help him out.
Yeah, did you not just hear us flip out about Nazis? Like we were
Yeah.
getting really
Did you not
we were
just hear
good.
us say "fuck Nazis" very
we were
clearly?
we got really giddy about killing Nazis on this podcast. I think we're good here. So
Used to be a very cool thing, by the way.
you'd think. I somehow maybe this movie's going to be more divisive. I can't believe it killed Nazis.
Yeah, no shit.
They add in the sex trafficking at the end. Once again, if you're against that, you need to really have a conversation with a therapist or something, because good lord. Patrick, next category: remake, sequel, or leave it alone. Obviously, this is already a remake, but we do know they made a whole lot of sequels to the original. When I left the theater, that girl who was talking to me at the theater, like, did you like it? She's like, I only saw the original, and I know that one meme of "It's garbage day," which is from the second one. There are a lot of Silent Night, Deadly Night sequels. None of them are good, by the way. That
No.
one line, "It's garbage day," that's famous, but still not a good movie. This is a remake, so we know that. So what is the next stage? Is it a remake? Is it a sequel? Or is it just leave it alone?
Damon, they teed it up perfectly. It's a sequel, and it's Pam's turn. It's Pam's turn to raise hell in the best way possible. You don't want to be on Pam's naughty list. I would like to be on Pam's nice list. Let's be honest. We don't want to be on her naughty list, and that I think it's ripe for a sequel. And especially the format and the way this movie is set up. It's just great to just jump into another movie. You could kind of do this premise forever.
I love on the occasion when you get a cool female slasher, cool
Yeah.
female led slasher film, and I think it's even cooler if you could get a female led anti-hero slasher where she's like the good guy
Yeah.
slasher.
Yeah.
So yeah, sequel's the answer. Like, you teed it up, and Billy gets to come back because he's still very much the voice in her head. And it kind of seemed like they were going down obviously they were going down the romantic side. So it's almost like she's got the voice of the man she cares about in her head. So it's a little different, because when Charlie got in Billy's head, he just literally murdered his parents, and it was like, the janitor, the janitor at his grandfather's nursing home. He actually was connected with Pam, so it feels like they would have a slightly different connection. And I would be fascinated to see where that would go, with Pam being the avenging angel. So yeah, I'm all for a sequel. So sign me up right now. Patrick, last category usually is it scary, but it is a Halloween. It is a Christmas horror film. It is the Christmas season. So Patrick, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Is it Slay?
Ho ho ho, Damon. We got a slay horror movie. This one slays all the way. Jingle all the way home, because Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 slays the fuck out of this shit. It's really good. I should say it's a really fun movie. It for what it is, for the context of the kind of movie that you're signing up for. It delivers on all fronts. It really does. It's going to be a very fun rewatch.
This scratched every itch I could have possibly had for this movie, because like I said, I went in with no expectations. I came out really enjoying it, to the point where I'm like, I'm going to want to watch this again. And a large part of that is because of the plot twist going down that road, and huge credit to Mike P. Nelson for coming, or whoever came up with that. Maybe he didn't come up with it. Maybe he just wrote it. But like, whoever came up with the idea to kind of turn Billy into an anti-hero, turn him into an avenging angel, a good guy killing bad guys, fucking loved it. And yes, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's the most genius, well-produced, well-acted movie of all time. Oh, it's actually very well acted, but I'm talking about like the actual execution of the movie. It's not. It's a low-budget horror film, but it's so much damn fun. It is so much damn fun. Like I said, it's 90 minutes, so it's a good, good length. They don't go overboard. It's like 2.5 hours looking at you, Terrifier 2. But like they do a good job of like keeping it moving, keeping it rolling. And when it ended, I was like, I legitimately was like, oh man, I'm looking forward to seeing that again. Like that to me is always the good sign of a movie when it's over and you're like, I can't wait to watch it again. I immediately had that thought leaving the theater. Actually, my first thought was, man, I hope they release this on Blu-ray so I could buy a physical copy of it because I want to add that to my like Christmas horror section. So well done, man. I like we're sitting there praising it left, right, and center, and I'm not downplaying my own praise by saying don't go in thinking it's going to be Sinners, which is maybe one of the best movies of the last decade. We named it our number one movie the last 5 years already, and it's been out for like 7 months. I'm not telling you it's that. I'm not even telling you like I know a lot of people didn't love 28 Years Later. You and I did. I'm not even telling you it's that. I'm just saying like we complained just this year about how slashers just seem to not be able to get it right anymore. Here's one that did. This one got it so right.
Amen.
Patrick, Silent Night, Deadly Night, in theaters right now. Go check it out. Support your local theater. Buy it. Check it out. Watch it. It's well worth your time. If you need a Christmas horror film, this is for you. As always, want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the show. Make sure you check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, of course, over on our YouTube channel, just search Rewind of the Living Dead, and also over on our website, rewindofthelivingdead.com. I just put up a review for the new horror film It Ends, which got a lot of buzz coming out of South by Southwest. It's finally available on Letterboxd Video Store, which is awesome, by the way. I was so excited to see they have their own little video store, little online blockbuster for Letterboxd, which is really cool. So It Ends review is over there. You can read that on rewindoflivingdead.com. Questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review, check us out on all your favorite platforms for social media, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Instagram. Once again, just search Rewind of the Living Dead, or find us on email, rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That is rotlivingdead@gmail.com. Or honestly, the easiest and quickest and fastest way to get a response, patreon.com/Rewind of the Living Dead. Join us. I promise you it's $5 a month. It ain't much. You're going to contribute to your boys so we can continue to do this show. You get early access to episodes. You get access to us because we always respond to every comment. And you get our bonus episodes like It Welcome to Derry. We did Alien Earth. And we have a new Film Core podcast coming soon, which is where we do a non-horror film podcast. And Patrick, I think we know what won this month, and boy, am I excited to review that one. So stay tuned for that Film Core podcast. Rewind of the Living Dead. It's me, patreon.com/Rewind of the Living Dead. And of course, you can always find us on our own personal social media channels. We are out there as well. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And as always, want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.
Peace.